Welcome back to Dualsighted. We're back. We got a special guest today. 9/11, the 20th anniversary. What do you remember about that day?
Well, I mean, obviously not much. We were 2 years old. We just turned two, so
I think we were saying goo goo gaga, huh?
yeah. Those are,
So,
I don't think we were even speaking, but
no. But I mean, someone who did go through, something that day, a tragic, day for her, is Tillie. Welcome, Tillie. Thank you for being here.
thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So, before we get to the 9/11 itself, how's life? How are you currently?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there with the anniversary coming up, but I'm all right.
So every year, like on this day, is it tough or?
It's tough. It's pretty tough. It's something I live with every day. I feel like the hype up and the excitement of the anniversary coming up every year is pretty bad.
Yeah,
I just like to skip over September altogether.
we don't blame you. But I mean, you brought it up September 11th, September 11th, 2001. That's a day that will forever, be remembered as one of the darkest days on the planet, let alone in American history. We were only two, so I mean, we don't remember anything at all, from that day. But I mean, we felt through years and years of, studying and just seeing the, survivors tell their story. It's just, I mean, it's still sad to this day. But to get into the details, 2,977 people died from the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Your father, unfortunately, he was, one of those people. You know, um, your father's name was Gary Geidel. Is that how you say his last name? Geidel?
Everyone pronounces it differently. Geidel, Geidel.
Geidel, okay. He was a New York City Fire Department firefighter, right?
Yes, and Rescue One Manhattan.
Okay. Tell us about your father and what you remember about him.
My dad was a really laid back guy, really down to earth, very loving, just an all around great guy. Everyone loved him. No one had anything bad to say about him. And he was my best friend.
At this time, at 2001, how old were you exactly?
I was 6. I was turning 7 that November.
So being six, you obviously remember. You remember that, right?
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Is it true that I read somewhere online, but is it true that, your father was weeks away from retiring before 9/11
Yeah,
happened?
he was 2 weeks away from retiring when 9/11 happened. And he actually took overtime the morning of 9/11. He wasn't supposed to work that morning.
Oh, so he just volunteered or did they call him in?
He didn't know that 9/11 was going on, so the night before he got off of work and he got a call that they had overtime for him. And back then, the more overtime you took, it would rack up your pension for when you retired. So he was taking as much overtime as he could, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we have overtime for you for the morning of September 11th," which back then meant absolutely nothing that day. So he went into work that day, and he was not supposed to be working, and and then 9/11 happened.
If you don't mind me asking, how old was your father when he passed away?
He was only 44.
44.
Mm-hmm.
Too young.
Yeah, too young. I mean, September 11th, 2001 at 8:46 a.m., the first plane crashes into the tower. Less than 20 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., the second plane hit the second tower. Where were you at this time, if you remember?
I was in my second grade classroom in Staten Island.
And everyone was in class like when you guys heard about it?
I didn't hear about it in class. So I said goodbye to my dad and things in the morning, and my mom walked me to school because the school is up the block from where I lived. And it wasn't that long into the day, and kids kept getting called out of class down to the office, and they kept getting called and called and called. And I was like, that's so weird. I guess I'll be called next. And then I was called next, and I went down to the office, and I was up on like the top floor, so it took me a little while to get down to the stairwell. And there's a window at the bottom of the stairwell, and I look out, and the whole hallways are flooded out of the office with mothers everywhere. I walk out there, and my mom grabs me, and she like pulls me out of school, and she's like frantic, she's crying and stuff. And I still didn't know exactly what happened. we got into the car with my neighbor, and she drove us back to her house. She lived across the street from me, and I got into her living room, and that the news was on, and that's when I saw the World Trade Center getting hit.
When this happened, was your dad, there already after the first plane hit or after the second one?
It was after the second one. So at that point, I watched pretty sure it was like a replay of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It already happened, and she went and picked me up from school, and I watched the replay. My dad was late for work that morning, and finding out years later with adding things up, because my dad went missing and they never found him and all that. So I kind of had to do a lot of research and try to figure things out, because back 20 years ago is not like today. There's not a lot of different film, a lot of different, there's cameras everywhere now and everyone's taking pictures, and it was a lot different back then. So we figured out that my dad actually left. He left for work late and got down there late. And his firehouse actually left without him. And when I added a bunch of stuff up, he got down to the World Trade Center by foot.
Oh, really?
So he actually got into the towers not long before they came down.
The department, is that close to the towers itself?
I think they're about 20 minutes away from his firehouse.
And your school, approximately how far was your school from all this?
My school is in Staten Island. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. At this point, like after, so how long did you say it took for you guys to realize that your dad was missing? Was it that day or the next day?
It was that day. So my mom got onto the phone with my aunt before she picked me up from school. And my aunt was NYPD, and she was like telling him, because they would meet up at runs all the time, because they worked about 11 minutes from each other. So they would meet up at different calls. And my mom told her sister, can you go find Gary? Can you find him and tell him to please call me, blah, blah, blah. And my aunt watched the towers come down and everything. And somehow she was supposed to be in the towers when that happened, but all this mix up, and the rookie wanted to go on the ride on the call instead of her, and she let him go. And then somehow that's how she made it, and she didn't lose her life too. And so no one heard from my dad, and then the day went on, and still no one heard from them and from him. And they started getting, when the towers came down, they started getting a list together of missing people, and they couldn't believe how many people were missing. And when that night came and my dad still wasn't home, and then the next day and he still wasn't home, but we were hanging on to hope for so long. And then the next day too, it was when they started finding survivors under the rubble. So we started believing, if anyone could make it, it was him, because he was a Eagle Scout, a Marine, a rescue man. And then we figured, he would make it, he would be under there, he would survive.
All right. As the days passed, it became apparent to you guys that, he wasn't going to come home, or exactly what?
To me, I believed he would come home for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And to my mom, she believed he would come home for a long time. And people kind of tried to snap my mom back into reality that he wasn't coming home. I mean, as time went on, it was really obvious that he wasn't going to come home, and that it was no longer a recovery to rescue people. It was to find remains. And it was hard because they never found him.
Even till this day, they haven't found him, right? Or
they're still testing DNA testing now, but they haven't found anything. There's so many people that weren't identified still.
Oh. And do you know exactly where your father was in the building? Like what floor or around what area?
You can't tell.
Know. My bad. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, at what point do you? Obviously, this was after the first plane hit. Do you remember, thinking, "Oh, that's an accident," or did you feel like it was something more than an accident?
No, I knew it was a terrorist attack. I knew
After
it.
just the first plane, or did it take the second plane to realize that?
No, when I watched it, I saw them replay both, planes going into the towers, and I said, this is like, I was horrified, and I knew that this was some sort of attack, even at that age.
Did you hear about your father's passing? Who exactly told you? Obviously you said it was through time that you kept believing, but ultimately was it you that believed, he wasn't coming back, or was it, someone had to like, pull you aside and say, he's not coming back?
No one ever actually explained anything to me at all. Nothing about that my dad was missing, nothing about that, what exactly happened, or that my dad, passed, or anything. I gathered everything around me that was going on, and I kind of started figuring out, he isn't going to come home after a little while. No one took me aside or explained anything to me.
After, weeks and weeks, how easy, or was it still tough, or when did it stop, the pain, was it still the same?
No, before she answers that, how long did it take before you realized, or until it kicked in that, that your father was unfortunately gone? Like, how long did it take you to process? Were you just like numb at first, or what?
Yeah, I was really numb. I started getting panic attacks from literally the beginning. I was started crying. I was freaking out. I was like, I want my dad. And, we had to walk up and down the block to try to get me to breathe because I was in a panic. And I wound up developing like PTSD from all of that because I was into it. And, I don't know, I started going back to school about a week and a half after 9/11. I started going back to school, and somehow all the kids in the school already knew about my dad. So they just kept harassing me, telling me that my dad is dead, your dad's dead, your dad's dead. I'm like, oh my God.
Really?
At 6 years old?
Yeah, they bullied me and they harassed me. These are like 6, 7-year-olds. And I actually didn't tell my mom about it. And it dawned on her after like a month of this going on. She was like, do any of the kids say anything to you at school? And I was like, well, yeah, they say that he's dead. And then, she went up to the school to tell the teacher to, correct these kids and tell them to stop doing this. And the teacher kind of shrugged it off, but she put them in their place after a while.
So go ahead.
But yeah, I think that I really accepted it at my dad's service. But I don't know, as time went on, I kind of figured, it's less likely that he would be home. And then I had kids, just telling me all the time that my dad's not alive. So that didn't help.
So the service, was it like just for your dad himself, or was there other victims involved too?
So the service was only for my dad. We had it August of 2002.
So during that day, what do you remember feeling? Do you remember feeling, oh, this, obviously, your dad still hasn't been found yet, but I mean, was there an emotion that you felt, especially on that day?
Yeah, complete like sorrow. It was pretty much the day that I accepted that this is it. He's not coming home. And when I look back, I mean, obviously he wasn't coming home as long as I was believing it. I believed it for so long, but I really accepted it then. And that was like the second hardest day of my life. And like, just, we couldn't have a burial or anything normal because there was just nothing of him. So that was hard too. And it was just, I wanted to get that day over with.
Yeah, kind of, obviously it's, very tragic what happened, but with a body, you can imagine it's still tragic, but without a body, it
just feels like something's missing. You can't really fully accept it yet. You still feel, part of you still feels like he's out there. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
During, those, years of grief, did it take, years of grief, would you say?
I feel like I'm still grieving now. Some days are worse than others. This time of year is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
I catch myself a lot just like breaking down and crying. And I think it's like hard for people to believe that it still affects you 20 years
Yeah.
later, and it still feels like super fresh to me.
Mm-hmm. And who would you credit on giving you the most help during those tough times, with grief or just your emotions? Was it your family, your mom?
My mom,
Your mom?
my mom, my mom, and my grandmother, and my aunts.
Your dad's coworkers, did they, were they helpful at all, with the process?
Hmm. My dad's good friend Kevin Shea, he would come down to the house a lot and give us updates and news of what was going on down there. And different ones would get on the phone with my mom at the firehouse, and there was a firehouse in my town that would come to our house every single day with just like trays of food, and he did that for about a year.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
He was there every single day.
So he really helped you and your family out, huh?
Yeah.
You mentioned you had PTSD. You still to this day have that, right? And are you seeing anyone talking about your feelings at all, or do you just you just tend to keep to yourself?
I have faith, and I pray about it and try to just like calm myself and ride it out. I don't really. I talk to my husband about it or my mom about it, but not really anyone professional.
Mm.
So now all you still experience like panic attacks, or is it just like depression, or just around this time of the year, like what do you experience?
It's a mixture. I get panic attacks. Random things could just set it off. I have a really bad problem going down into the city. That really like freaks me out. I haven't been back to my dad's fire in I want to say like probably in 2003. Been down to his firehouse, and I haven't been down to the museum or anything like that at all. I actually recently decided that I'm gonna go down this year,
Oh really?
and this is good. Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm freaking out a little bit about it, but
I mean, 20 years, but obviously,
Still gonna.
it's gonna be hard. But I bet once you get over with it,
There's gonna be other people there too, huh? That went through similar things.
yeah, there's gonna be. I think I'm gonna go to my dad's firehouse to their ceremony. So the different guys that worked with my dad, there'll be different kids that lost their dads.
Yeah. Oh, so you're not going to the memorial, huh? The memorial is the one in downtown. Okay. So you mentioned the panic attacks. When you have panic attacks, who usually helps you? Is it your husband? Is it your mom?
Both of them. Sometimes I hide it and keep it to myself. Try to just breathe it out.
And when you have panic attacks, it's like physical. I obviously don't know what it is, what it's like, but I mean, is it you can't breathe or something?
Mine is my heart pounds out of my chest, and sometimes I get dizzy. I feel like I can't breathe. The feeling like I can't breathe thing, I think, is my mind, but
yeah,
my heart really pounds out of my chest, and I kind of feel like lightheaded.
Obviously, like he said, I haven't experienced like random panic attacks, but when we like get our blood taken out, I don't know if that's from the blood being taken out. Don't you like?
Yeah, we're just babies. When they draw blood, we just feel like we're gonna die.
Yeah, our heart. It's the same exact symptoms: heart race,
lightheaded.
Obviously, almost faint, but obviously it's not random. But
yeah, sometimes it's random. Sometimes things sets it off.
Is there like a certain trigger that sets it off? You said the city. You said this day.
The city sets it off. Sometimes just seeing pictures of the towers blowing up and things like that. Sometimes just like the date, maybe like 9/11 around that date, around his birthday. It just depends. Sometimes it's just out of nowhere and I have no idea why it's going on.
So obviously as you got older, as you grew up, going up in higher grades, like would they teach you about 9/11? Would you like would they pull you out the class to like
Give you like bedside manner or something like in that type of way?
Yeah, not try to, make you remember, the tragedy of that day. Would they do that, or would you have to sit through class and reminisce of that day?
So I finished school in Staten Island, and then I came up here and I did some school, and then I wound up switching over to homeschooling, so I didn't even have to experience that stuff. I'm kind of trying to spread the word and kind of teach kids the real history of it through my different posts on social media.
And what about the real history that you could give us? Obviously we're gonna save it for the end, but I mean, you have a book, and the title is 9/11 Through the Eyes of a Daughter. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that's on Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can you give us? Some of those, the history from your perspective on 9/11.
So I think that it's good for kids to know the personal history of each person, also that they're not just like a face. And because you look at the pictures and the names of the victims, and they're also a person. They also have, each one of them has their own story. So knowing that, and then just like they see the planes hitting the World Trade Center or something like that, but they don't really know like the feelings of the family members or people that were down there and the real experiences of it. And I feel like that's important to really understand.
Yeah, to add on that, I think, all those years that we've been, seeing the pictures of planes, the plane hitting the tower, we've kind of been what is it called?
Depersonalized?
Yeah, depersonalized, or, we don't feel that sensation.
Obviously we didn't go through it, but I mean, we know
But, seeing it over and over,
and we know what you mean. They try to make it like on the news, or just like, they make it seem like a statistic, or everyone's a number.
Yeah, just another day.
Like there was 343 firemen, and recently this year I've been seeing people writing rest in peace to the 343 brothers and sisters, which makes me sad because I'm saying these kids don't know that they were all men, they're all firemen, which means that they're not paying attention that about history and who these people were. Because you can look at the picture of all of them and see that they're all guys, and it just makes me sad. Like 20 years later, and all these people are forgetting or didn't learn.
Not to add on top of that, maybe it's, obviously this world is growing into.
Yeah, with the world now, maybe they're trying to make it seem like
more, equal. I don't know, but obviously, if it's all male, I don't
you just got to be straight up. I feel, if it's male, it's say male. But I mean, before we, let you go, May 2nd, 2011. Does that day ring a bell?
No.
That's the day that Osama bin Laden was killed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What do you remember feeling when that happened? Do you remember anything from that day?
I was shocked and I didn't believe it. And then news started breaking because I started seeing people's posts before I saw the news, and then all of a sudden it was on the news, and I was just like, it was a big relief. Like evil was finally taken care of.
Yeah, I remember when our mom woke us up, huh? It was like on the way to 5th grade.
Was it? Yeah, I think so.
She woke us up. We couldn't believe it. Usually we're in a bad mood before school, but I mean, we were excited.
Was it in the morning? I thought it was in
it was very early.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember finding out like in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But as young as you were, you obviously credited your mom with, helping you the most. Does she herself go through, does she still have certain triggers like you? Does she go through the same emotion, PTSD or something like that?
Hers is more severe than mine is.
Right.
Definitely more severe.
Yeah.
And it's really bad this time of year.
And do you guys usually get together during this time, or you'd like to keep the space?
Oh, actually, because my mom is widowed and everything, my husband and I decided to live with her so she doesn't have to be alone.
Oh, really? So she's living with you now?
Yeah, which helps her so much.
That's good.
That's great.
You kind of want to escape that, or if you're living with your mom, or does it help you cope with, if you have someone else that went through the same thing as you, even more severe? Does it help you?
Yeah,
or does it
It helps me. It helps me a lot. We talk about it like it's an everyday subject.
You know, I've always wondered about, you know, we're like, do you watch like comedians or comedy podcasts and stuff?
Sometimes on Netflix or something.
There was like this comic or something, you know, he I forgot what his name was. You know who I'm talking about? The one, he was a comic who, you know, said that he was involved in 9/11 or his parents was 9/11 just for like a PR stunt. You know,
Oh,
do you remember that?
I didn't.
Yeah, I know the name, but I don't think we should name him.
Who?
That's ridiculous. I didn't hear about that.
You don't care about that type of stuff?
I didn't hear about any of that.
So, you know, basically, to summarize the story, I think he said he himself was, you know, he was involved in, like, he escaped or something.
Yeah.
But obviously they found that not to be true.
Yeah. How do you feel about people using 9/11 as to, you know, to boost themselves up, you know, in the celebrity world in Hollywood or something like that?
Kind of makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously it's sick, but, you know, later I remember he said it on like an interview that, you know, he said it as a joke, but he went on with the joke and eventually it became a truth. So, you know, obviously he shouldn't have done that, but
yeah, there's certain lines you can't cross as a comedian. You know, speaking of comedian, you know Pete Davidson, right? Who that is?
Staten Island.
You know, are you a fan of his? Obviously, you know
I like him.
You like him?
Yeah, I like him.
You know, his father, you know, he was a...
But I like him.
The what?
We don't agree on some things, but I like him.
Yeah. And his father was in the same department or no?
Not in the same department, but we came from the same town.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
Staten Island?
in Tauntville. I'm pretty sure that he was my neighbor at some point down the block from me.
Oh, really?
His dad went to college with my aunt, the one I was talking about earlier.
You mentioned, you know, you want to teach the real history of 9/11. You know, you want to teach the next generation of, you know, what's being missed, you know, left out in the history books. You know, so all this information that could, you know, it could be found in your book.
Yeah, my dad's story and my experience of 9/11. So a personal experience.
And it's from your perspective?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's titled, once again, 9/11 Through the Eyes of a Daughter. And it's on Amazon exclusively, or is it somewhere else as well?
It's Amazon exclusively.
Amazon, okay. And we'll put that, you know, link down below. But is there anything else you want to, you know, promote? Your social media, any websites, any, you know, YouTube channels or anything?
I'm on Instagram, TikTok.
Okay, and we'll obviously link that down below.
Okay.
But you know, before we leave, is there anything else you want to say before we leave?
No, you pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, you know, obviously we thank you for coming, or, you know, coming online and, you know, having this interview with us. And
obviously you know, from your words, from your mouth, it's not easy this time of year, you know, but I mean, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day, you know, to, you know, share with us.
I appreciate you having an interest in it.
Yes, we do. Very interested. And you know, and before we leave you, I think you know, you're a religious person, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, isn't it safe to say that her, you know, father, Mr. Geidel, is looking down on her?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So I mean, keep it up. You know, your book. You know, we're gonna definitely order that. You know, once again, guys, check it out down below. Link down below. And you know, once again, Tillie, thank you for your time, and take care. God bless.
Thank you too. Thank you for having me.
We thank Tillie. You know, once again, you know, her book's gonna be down below. You know, what was your thoughts on that? It's interesting. We've never heard it from, you know, straight from a victim or your family.
Yeah, you know, we just, all the times that we've, you know, heard about this topic, it's, you know, been on TV,
and it always feels like something else is missing, huh? It just makes it seem like, it's just a day.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
It's, you know, it doesn't feel personal, but having an actual person who went through it, obviously, you know,
it makes us feel, you know, for, you know, her and all the victims. I mean, it's not, you know, 20 years. Like,
at 20 years, that's, you know, time flies.
You know, but once again, you know, we thank her once again. You know, link down below for her book. You know, social media. You know, go support her. And you know, once again, you guys are watching Dualsighted. Follow us on Dualsighted down below. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And once again, we thank Tillie, and, you know, go check out her book. Thank you for watching. Peace.